you. Toxic people don't always scream. They smile while they sabotage. That's the trap. We're trained to spot danger by volume, by chaos, by open aggression. You. But some of the most dangerous people in your life are the ones who never raise their voice. They whisper instead. They wear concern like a mask. They give advice that cuts your momentum. They praise you just enough to keep you tethered, but pull you down the moment you start to fly too far. And because they're not obvious, because they're charming, supportive on the surface, you ignore the gut feeling that something is off. You explain it away. You call it stress. You tell yourself they're just having a bad day. And you keep giving them access to your peace. Their sabotage is slow. It's strategic. They ask questions that plant seeds of doubt. You really think you can pull that off? Do you think people will take you seriously? Are you sure you're not moving too fast? Wrapped in a ribbon of care, but laced with poison. They frame their manipulation as concern. But the truth is, they don't want you to outgrow the version of you they're comfortable controlling. Your growth threatens their illusion of superiority. Your healing removes their power. So they strike in silence, and when you call it out, they act confused, defensive. I was just trying to help. You're too sensitive. You always take things the wrong way. That's part of the game. Keep you second, guessing yourself so much that you forget how to trust your own intuition. What makes these people so dangerous? Their ability to blend in. They're not enemies from the outside. They're friends, lovers, siblings, parents, people with access to your soft spots. They don't have to fight you head on. They use your history as leverage. They know where you've bled before. So they press exactly where it hurts. And because you love them, you ignore it. You shrink instead of confronting. You rationalize instead of removing. You tolerate instead of tearing away. That's how they win. Not through dominance, through deception. And over time, you become a stranger to your own power. You start dimming your light so they feel more comfortable. You play small so they won't feel insecure. You edit your joy, your confidence, your ambition, because they taught you quietly that being fully yourself was somehow too much. The sabotage isn't always a grand betrayal. Sometimes it's just their silence when you succeed. The fake smile when you announce a win. The way they suddenly go distant when you level up. The jokes that cut deeper than they should. The passive-aggressive comments dressed as humor. The emotional withdrawal used as punishment. It's all intentional. It's designed to confuse you, to keep you doubting, to keep you attached. And if you're not vigilant, if you don't audit the energy in your life, you'll internalize their poison as your truth. Staying strong around these people isn't about matching their energy. It's not about getting loud or starting drama. It's about getting clear. Clear about what you're feeling. Clear about who is adding to your life and who is extracting from it. Clear about the cost of keeping certain people close. Strength is setting boundaries without explanation. Strength is walking away without permission. Strength is reclaiming your worth in rooms that tried to make you forget it. These people don't want you strong. They want you compliant. Your clarity is your rebellion. Your confidence is your armor. Your elevation is the only revenge. Because when you rise above the games, the gaslighting, the manipulation, you starve them of the control they crave. And that's when their smile fades. That's when their sabotage is exposed. That's when their silence speaks louder than ever. The enemy wears familiar faces. Comfort can camouflage corruption. That's the most dangerous part about betrayal. It doesn't come from strangers. It doesn't storm through the front door with a threat and a warning. It walks in through the side with a handshake, with a hug, with a shared memory. It knows your language, your past, your habits. It knows how to wear trust like a disguise. And it knows that if it stays quiet enough, close enough, long enough, you'll lower your guard without even realizing it. The people who can do the most damage to your life are rarely the ones shouting from the sidelines. They're the ones sitting at your table, asking for a piece of your peace while poisoning the rest. Your comfort is how they win. It creates a false sense of safety. It makes you overlook things that should be warnings. You ignore the red flags because you've seen the smile too many times to question it. You downplay the disrespect because you've laughed together. You justify the manipulation because they were there during hard seasons, and you tell yourself that loyalty requires tolerance, even when what you're tolerating is the slow death of your self-worth. But comfort is not the same as safety. Familiarity is not the same as love. And just because someone's been around a long time doesn't mean they deserve lifetime access to you. Corruption in relationships doesn't always look like betrayal at first. Sometimes it looks like control wrapped in concern. It sounds like subtle suggestions that keep you small. It shows up in the way they always find something wrong when you're finally doing something right. It leaks through their inability to celebrate your wins without reminding you of your past failures. It's not overt, it's strategic. They don't want to destroy you all at once. They want to reshape you into someone they can manage, someone who second guesses every decision, someone who seeks approval before taking action, someone who stops growing because they're afraid of losing the connection. The corruption hides in the guilt they install in you. The guilt for setting boundaries, the guilt for saying no, the guilt for choosing yourself. You start to feel like the villain in your own story simply because you want to live free. That's how deep their conditioning goes. They weaponize your empathy. They distort your sense of responsibility. They plant seeds of doubt and then pretend to be the one helping you pull them out. They turn your clarity into confusion. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're exhausted, not because you're weak, because you've spent so long trying to fix something that was designed to stay broken. It's easy to look for demons in enemies. It's harder to admit they live in the ones you call friend, your partner, family. But growth requires brutal honesty. If someone constantly drains you, if their presence brings more anxiety than peace, if your spirit feels smaller around them, that is not love. That is not loyalty. That is not a bond worth preserving. It's a trap wrapped in tradition. It's dysfunction dressed as duty. And every time you make excuses for it, you betray your own evolution. You stay in places you've outgrown. You water dead plants hoping they'll bloom again. And you call it patience when really it's paralysis. You can't heal in the same environment that's been slowly wounding you. You can't rise while anchored to people who are invested in your stagnation. Not everyone who started with you is meant to finish with you. Some people were only there to expose what you still needed to overcome. The lesson isn't in the betrayal, it's in what you do after. Do you keep giving out passes to people who've already proven they can't be trusted? Or do you reclaim the narrative and start honoring your instincts over your emotional attachments? The truth is, the longer you allow comfort to shield corruption, the deeper you sink into cycles that were never meant to hold you. The longer you pretend not to see the darkness in familiar faces, the longer that darkness controls your life in the disguise of love. Emotional parasites love when you doubt your gut, never betray your instincts. They thrive in the moments you second guess yourself. They study the cracks in your confidence like predators studying prey. They don't need to overpower you all at once. They just need you to hesitate, to question your intuition, to explain away the tension in your chest, the fatigue in your soul, the weight you feel after being around them. That hesitation is the doorway they walk through you, because once you start mistrusting your inner compass, they know they can navigate your life for you. They don't come in shouting, they come in whispering, offering concern, advice. Guilt-laced affection. They want you leaning on them so they can slowly feed off your energy, your identity, your direction. Your instincts are ancient. They are the alarm system your soul uses to warn you before your logic catches up. But emotional parasites rewire that system. They convince you that you're too sensitive, too dramatic, too selfish for noticing what they do. They make you question whether the unease you feel is even real. They twist your intuition into anxiety and then offer themselves as the cure. It's a cycle of dependency built on confusion. They create the fog, then act like the flashlight. But the truth is, you were never lost. You were just taught not to trust your own eyes. These people don't want relationship, they want control. And the easiest way to gain control is to wear down your ability to make decisions without them. They disguise control as closeness. They insert themselves into your life under the banner of love, friendship, family. They use emotional history as leverage. They don't need to isolate you physically. They just need to disconnect you from your truth. When you feel something is off, they rush to provide a counter narrative. When you start pulling away, they intensify the guilt. They're not fighting to stay close to you. They're fighting to stay close to your access, your power, your peace. Because you carry a light they can't create on their own. So they feed off yours, You'll notice it in small moments. That quiet tension when you speak your truth. The way they go cold when you don't ask for their opinion. The subtle shifts in energy when you shine without their permission. They celebrate your success only when it's under their supervision. Step outside of their framework, and suddenly you're too much. Too ambitious, too independent, too confident. That's not coincidence. That's control dressed as connection. They want you humble, not for your sake, but for theirs, you. Because your power reminds them of their own lack. Your alignment threatens their influence. And so they attack the root of your strength, your instinct. The cost of betraying your gut is slow erosion. You don't notice it at first. You just start hesitating more. You feel tired after conversations that should leave you energized. You delay decisions, waiting for clarity that never comes. You start asking for validation more than you used to. And eventually, you don't recognize yourself in the mirror, not because you've changed you, but because you've been living through someone else's lens. That's the danger of letting parasites near your peace. They don't just drain you. They reshape you into someone you were never meant to become. Your instincts are not optional, they're vital. They are your radar in a world full of hidden agendas and smiling manipulators. You are not built to outsource your truth. You are not designed to seek clarity from chaos. The moment something feels off, pay attention. Not everything needs proof. Sometimes the only evidence you need is the way your spirit responds. Trust it. Defend it. Don't wait for them to show you their intentions in words. Watch how your energy shifts around them. That's the real language. That's the signal. And if you ignore it long enough, you'll find yourself locked in patterns that feel familiar but lead nowhere. Because parasites don't want to destroy you instantly. They want to keep you alive just enough to keep feeding. When loyalty becomes a leash, it's time to cut the cord. Loyalty is supposed to be a bond of honor, a reflection of integrity, something sacred that binds people together through thick and thin. But when it's weaponized, when it starts feeling like an obligation rather than a choice, it stops being loyalty and starts becoming imprisonment. Not all chains are made of iron. Some are forged in guilt, in shared history, in repeated reminders of everything I've done for you. The leash is subtle. It tightens every time you try to breathe differently, grow in a new direction. Or step into a version of yourself that no longer fits the mold they expect. Suddenly, loyalty becomes the excuse you use to stay somewhere your soul is suffocating. They'll remind you of how long they've been in your life, how they were there when no one else was, how they deserve a permanent seat at your table simply because they showed up during your storms. But what they won't mention is how many times they've held you back. How they've used your loyalty to keep you in cycles that benefit them but break you. How they've expected blind allegiance even when your boundaries are being bulldozed. This isn't mutual respect. It's manipulation cloaked in nostalgia. They don't want a relationship. They want ownership. They want the ability to guilt you into silence, submission, or sacrifice, and they'll call it love every time. The leash doesn't always look like control at first. Sometimes it comes disguised as protection. They tell you what's best for you, question your decisions, undermine your instincts, but always under the guise of concern. You begin to lose your voice, not because they took it, but because you've been conditioned to believe you shouldn't use it unless it aligns with their expectations. That's not guidance, it's grooming. And when you finally notice the pattern, the pushback begins. You're labeled ungrateful, disloyal, selfish. Not because you betrayed them, but because you dared to prioritize yourself. Loyalty without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. It makes you tolerate behavior that disrespects your worth. It convinces you to keep investing in relationships where you're the only one showing up. It makes you question your right to evolve because someone else feels entitled to the old version of you. They fell in love with who you were when you needed them. But now that you've found your strength, they feel abandoned. That's the hidden truth about growth. It reveals who is really rooting for you and who is just enjoying your dependency. The moment your loyalty starts demanding your silence, your stagnation, or your suffering, it's not love anymore. It's control in costume. Cutting the cord isn't betrayal, it's clarity. It's the recognition that loyalty is only sacred when it's mutual, when it honors both people's humanity, not just one person's comfort. With you. If someone needs your loyalty more than they respect your well-being, they're not your tribe, they're your trap. And no amount of shared memories, years invested, or emotional debt justifies staying chained to someone who no longer aligns with your future. The hardest part is often not walking away. It's forgiving yourself for staying too long. for mistaking attachment for alignment, for letting guilt override your growth. But once you realize the leash exists, your only responsibility is to break it. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with quiet resolve. There are people who will call you disloyal simply because you stopped letting them misuse your love, People who will rewrite history to make themselves the victim of your evolution. Let them. You don't owe anyone your continued presence in a place where your power is a threat. You owe yourself freedom. Freedom from emotional contracts signed in desperation. Freedom from being the emotional caretaker for people who drain but never pour. Freedom from being tethered to versions of yourself that no longer serve your purpose. True loyalty doesn't chain you. It champions you. It celebrates your growth, even if it means growing apart. It lifts you, even if it costs closeness. And it never, ever demands you stay small just to keep the peace. Demons in disguise will mirror your wounds to earn your trust. They don't show up with horns and fire. They show up with empathy, timing, and stories that echo your pain. They study your scars and repeat them back to you like shared memories. They know that the fastest way into someone's heart is through the doorway of familiar suffering. So they don't force themselves in. They get invited. Because when someone reflects your brokenness with precision, you start to believe they understand you. And when you believe someone understands you, you open the gates, you drop the armor, you silence the alarms, you let them in deeper than they've earned you. That's how they operate, not by overpowering you, but by becoming what you've been looking for. They don't mirror your light, they mirror your wounds. They echo your abandonment, your betrayals, your disappointments. They play back your past in a way that makes you feel seen, even held. But what they're really doing is learning how to access the most fragile parts of you. Because the one who knows your pain can also learn how to press on it. At first, they'll use it to bond with you. I know exactly how that feels. That happened to me too. You're not alone. These words disarm you. Not because they're always lies, sometimes they're partially true, but because they're crafted to sound like healing while functioning like a hook. You begin to feel safe, finally understood, finally accepted, but it's not safety, it's surveillance. They're collecting data on what hurts, what heals, what soothes you back into silence when you start to notice the shift, and the shift always comes, slowly, subtly. At first, they're everything you've been missing. They show up with attention, validation, intensity. But once they've secured your trust, once they've embedded themselves into your emotional ecosystem, they start the real work, not of supporting you, but of shaping you. They take your vulnerability and twist it. What once felt like connection begins to feel like control. They start using your fears against you. You're scared of abandonment, so they threaten distance when you speak your truth. You've been betrayed, so they play loyal while planting seeds of doubt in everyone else around you. You fear not being enough. So they praise you just enough to keep you hooked, but criticize you just enough to keep you insecure. You start to notice that you're changing, but not in ways that make you stronger. You're shrinking. You're quieter. You're constantly checking yourself. You second guess what you feel, what you know. That inner voice that once warned you now feels muted, overwritten by their narrative. They've become your mirror, and you don't even recognize yourself anymore. That's the goal, to fracture your sense of self so that you lean harder on their version of reality, to become the voice in your head, the one you trust more than your own. Because the moment you stop trusting yourself, they've won, not through force, but through access. It's one of the oldest forms of manipulation. Become what they need, then take what you want. And what these disguised demons want is power, control, ego validation, supply. Your pain isn't just a door, it's a map. And if you've never healed it, they'll trace it like a blueprint. That's why unhealed wounds are so dangerous. They don't just keep you hurting they keep you open to the wrong people. People who don't want to love you, they want to leverage you. People who aren't trying to help you rise, they're trying to keep you reachable. And they do it all with a smile, with shared stories, with me too, sentiments that lull you to closeness while slowly eroding your core. True connection doesn't exploit your past, it honors it. It doesn't use your pain as leverage, it holds space for it without turning it into a tool. But a demon in disguise will do just that. Weaponize your wounds under the illusion of intimacy. They'll speak your language, finish your sentences, cry the same tears. Not because they care, but because it gives them entry. And once they're inside, The damage doesn't come from a single strike. It comes from a series of small, consistent cuts to your confidence, your clarity, your ability to see them for who they truly are. You're not cold for creating distance. You're courageous for choosing self-respect. The world often confuses silence with anger, space with bitterness, and boundaries with cruelty. But the truth is, choosing yourself in a world that romanticizes self-sacrifice is an act of radical strength. There comes a time when you realize that constantly giving your energy to people who disregard, misuse you, or misunderstand it is not compassion, it's self-abandonment. And when that realization hits, distance becomes necessary, not out of hatred, not out of pride, but from a quiet understanding that your peace cannot survive in places where your worth is constantly questioned. People who are used to your compliance will call you distant when you finally become discerning. They'll mislabel your boundaries as walls. They'll frame your silence as hostility. They'll call your withdrawal immature simply because they can no longer manipulate the version of you that always said yes. But what they don't see is the journey it took to get there. The nights you spend replaying conversations, questioning if you were too sensitive. The moments you doubted yourself for wanting more. The emotional labor you gave without question, hoping one day they'd understand your heart. You created distance not as a punishment to them, but as protection for you. Creating distance is not the absence of love, It's often the result of too much love given without reciprocity. When you love deeply, when you show up fully, when you give people access to your vulnerabilities, it takes immense strength to acknowledge when that access is no longer being honored. It takes courage to stop showing up for people who only notice your absence, not your presence. It takes maturity to stop pouring into relationships where your energy is consumed but never replenished. And it takes self-respect to know that your emotional safety is not something you owe to anyone who repeatedly endangers it. There will always be those who try to guilt you into staying connected. They'll remind you of shared history, past struggles, or how you used to be. But shared history is not a life sentence to you. Just because someone was there for a chapter doesn't mean they deserve to write the rest of your book. Growth often demands separation. And sometimes distance is the only way to see clearly. When you're too close to dysfunction, it starts to feel normal. When you're entangled with people who drain you, you begin to mistake exhaustion for loyalty. But once you step back, once you breathe without the noise of emotional manipulation, you start to feel the weight you've been carrying. And with that awareness comes the decision to finally put it down. The fear of being called cold or heartless keeps many people trapped in toxic dynamics. But you don't owe the world warmth at the expense of your well-being. You don't have to justify the steps you take to protect your peace. True self-respect is quiet but powerful. It doesn't scream for validation. It simply moves different. It learns the difference between forgiveness and access. It understands that empathy doesn't mean endurance. It chooses presence with people who reciprocate and distance from those who exploit you. And while that choice may not be understood by everyone, it doesn't need to be. Your healing, your growth, your self-worth are not up for public opinion. You weren't made to be everything for everyone. You weren't built to constantly pour from an empty cup. If someone cannot honor your presence, they shouldn't be offended by your distance. If someone refuses to meet you with the same level of care you offer, they don't deserve continued access to your energy. And if choosing yourself makes you seem cold to those who only value the parts of you they could use, then so be it. You're not cold. You're finally awake. You're not heartless. You're finally whole. You're not selfish. You're finally free from the pressure to prove your worth through suffering. And in a world that often rewards self-erasure, choosing self-respect is one of the most courageous things you can ever do. Energy doesn't lie. If someone drains you, believe the feeling. Your body, your mind, your spirit all send signals before your logic even kicks in. It's like an internal GPS alerting you to danger, yet so often we ignore it. We make excuses for people who leave us exhausted, confused, and depleted. We convince ourselves that it's temporary, that maybe we're just tired or stressed, that we should push through because relationships are supposed to be work. But what if the work you're doing is not growth but survival? What if the fatigue you feel is not from life's challenges but from someone constantly taking without giving back? Energy doesn't lie. It's the silent truth your soul knows long before your mind agrees. People who drain your energy don't always come with red flags. Sometimes they come dressed as friends, family, partners, even mentors. They say the right things, smile at the right moments. and make you believe that their presence is uplifting. But after every interaction, you feel like you've been through a storm. You feel scattered, doubting, empty. That heavy, sinking feeling in your chest is not coincidence. It's a warning. It's your internal barometer telling you that the exchange is not balanced, that the connection is toxic, that your well-being is at risk. When you dismiss those feelings, you're dismissing the most important relationship you have, the one with yourself. Energy is more than just mood or emotion. It's the cumulative effect of how people impact your essence. Some people energize you with their enthusiasm, kindness, and support. They make you feel lighter, more alive, more capable. Others siphon your vitality through criticism, manipulation, or emotional demands. They leave you feeling drained, questioning, and diminished. The key difference is not in the words they say, but in how you feel in their presence and after. If you consistently feel tired, anxious, or diminished around someone, that's your energy telling you something critical. This person is not good for you. It's easy to get caught in the trap of rationalizing these feelings because human connections are complicated. We want relationships to work. We want to believe the best in people. We want to give second chances and third chances and sometimes even more. But believing in the possibility of change doesn't mean ignoring your truth in the present. It doesn't mean sacrificing your mental, emotional, or spiritual health to keep someone comfortable. When energy drains happen repeatedly, it's a sign to reassess, not to persevere blindly. Your feelings are the compass guiding you toward healthier boundaries, not obstacles to overcome. Trusting your energy means honoring yourself enough to say no when needed. It means acknowledging that your time and attention are valuable resources, not infinite ones. It means recognizing that you don't have to explain why you need space or distance from someone who repeatedly exhausts you. Your energy is sacred. Protecting it is not selfish, it's necessary. And the sooner you stop trying to force relationships that sap your strength, the sooner you can redirect that energy toward healing, growth, and joy. There will always be people who resist your boundaries, who accuse you of overreacting or being too sensitive. But remember, energy doesn't lie. When someone drains you, it's not your fault for feeling it. It's not a reflection of your weakness. It's an indication that your system is working exactly as it should, alerting you to what's harmful. The challenge is learning to listen and act on that message, to stop apologizing for protecting yourself, to stop explaining your choices to people who don't respect your peace, to start believing that your well-being is worth prioritizing above all else. Your energy is your most honest friend in a world full of masks and illusions. It reveals who truly supports you and who takes from you. It teaches you when to stay and when to walk away. And when you finally learn to trust that feeling, you reclaim a vital part of your power. You learn to honor yourself with the same loyalty you once gave to others, because energy doesn't lie. And when you believe that everything changes, when someone repeatedly triggers your healing, they are not your home. Healing is a sacred journey, a process of reclaiming your peace, your power, your identity. It's about moving from pain to growth, from brokenness to wholeness. But healing is also delicate. It requires space, patience, and safety. It requires environments and relationships that nurture your progress rather than undermine it. When someone continuously triggers old wounds, drags up your trauma, or disregards the boundaries you've set to protect your healing, they are not a refuge. They are a storm. They are not the sanctuary your soul needs. They are the chaos your heart deserves to move away from. Healing demands environments where vulnerability is met with respect, where progress is celebrated, and where setbacks are met with compassion. If someone keeps triggering you, it means their presence is unsafe, not necessarily physically, but emotionally and spiritually. The triggers are not accidental. They are symptoms of dynamics that don't honor your growth, whether through ignorance or intention. They force you to relieve pain you're trying to move beyond. They dismiss your boundaries as inconvenient. They minimize your feelings or gaslight your experience. And every time you engage with them, you're pulled back into old cycles of hurt instead of being supported to step into new cycles of healing. People who repeatedly trigger your healing are not your home, because home is where you find refuge. Home is where you can breathe freely without fearing judgment or rejection. Home is where your scars are seen as part of your story, not as reasons for distance or disdain. Home is where you are met with kindness, understanding, and patience. If someone triggers your healing again and again, they are denying you the very foundation of home, safety. And without safety, healing cannot thrive. The presence of constant triggers creates an environment of tension, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. It chips away at your progress, leaving you stuck in the same place you've been trying to leave. Recognizing that someone is not your home, even if they are family, lifelong friends, or partners, is one of the hardest truths to accept. There is a natural desire to hold on, to fix, to hope for change. But healing does not require martyrdom. It requires courage to protect yourself, to distance yourself, and sometimes to let go. Holding on to people who trigger your healing is like trying to grow a garden in a toxic soil. No matter how much you water the seeds, the roots cannot take hold in a place that continually poisons them. Healing needs fertile ground, people who uplift, who encourage, who create safe spaces for growth. This doesn't mean you have to cut everyone off or shut down emotionally. It means being intentional about who gets your energy and who doesn't. It means setting clear boundaries and enforcing them even when it's uncomfortable. It means saying no to interactions that don't serve your well-being. It means choosing yourself over the obligation to stay connected to people who keep reopening your wounds. And it means understanding that your worth is not tied to the approval or acceptance of those who trigger your pain. Your healing journey is deeply personal and sacred. It deserves to be honored by yourself and by those around you. When someone repeatedly triggers your healing, it's a signal, not a punishment, that this relationship is not nourishing your soul. It's not the place where your heart can rest. True home is found in connections that celebrate your growth, respect your boundaries, and allow you to heal at your own pace. And sometimes, finding that home requires leaving behind what once felt familiar but no longer feels safe. Because healing is about moving forward, not getting stuck in loops of pain disguised as connection.